Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this. I think I shared a little bit with Colleen, and she thought it was maybe important that to share it. I hope when I share it, it's the same way that I put it together in all these notes that I have. But just be patient with me as I try to put these thoughts together of the Garden of Eden and the cave of Machpelah in Hebron. And this is a journey of covenant. This is a journey that will teach us that all began in the garden and the death and the restoration, which we all know. We all know that this is the pattern that God have chosen for humanity, and because we've been disobedient, and all began when we started with that word in page 103 of Genesis 2:12, and that word, that verse of the stone, and Colleen asked a question. And I'd like to use this website here just to see with my eyes how the verse looked like in the Hebrew, even though I don't understand it at all. But it just gave me a snapshot, or how does it look like? And when I was doing that studying, um, it got my attention of the land is good. When it says the line is good on Genesis 2:12, and then when I saw that, when my eyes encountered that picture, line is good, immediately it took me to chapter 1 of Genesis, when he's saying, when he was creating and he was saying that it was good, it was good, it was good. But here it's like a death of the land, of that it was good, like day three of creation, and that he described it with these stones. And then Colleen sent in the chat this question. She sent this question. What did you make of the connections between Hohan, and I'm sorry for my pronunciation, but just bear with me. Hohan, Shem, potentially green in color, and the possible meaning of Hohan as to blanch, like meaning the purification. And that question took me immediately back to that picture of the land is good and the stones in the land. The land is good. And I said, well, I've never heard this word of Hohan, so let me keep searching. So makes me think that it's not just a garden like we think of a garden when we visit like a park. It's something holy, something that our eyes cannot even conceive or imagine, the Garden of Eden. And then when you look at these two words, the Hohan and the Shem, well, the Shem is described with the chin and the men, and the Hohan then has that letter Hey right in the center. It's the only difference between these two words. And Shem means name, means identity, means reputation. But when you really look in the BibleHub.com, it also means memorial. Memorial. And I put that in the shelf because I have no idea. I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with name, I'm familiar with identity, the reputation, but memorial, why a memorial? Okay, people get buried, a memorial, but why a memorial? So then when you take a look at the letter, the fifth letter that is added there to create that name, Hohan, is Hey, which symbolize revelation, which symbolize breath and spirit and divine impartation. So this connection kind of like you start intriguing and saying, okay, the stones are connecting to the shoulder of the priest. and that carry the names. And it takes us to the book of Exodus, Shema, and the tribes of Israel. So Exodus 28:9 says, "You should take two onyx stones and engrave them on them the names of the son of Israel." So when you think of it, the name of Abraham and the name of Sarah, God added that name, that letter, hey, he used the letter hey and added to their names. And he describing the stones in the land that is good with this name Hohan. And Hohan has that middle letter hey, and the name of Abraham Sarah has that name. So it represents the life of breath, the revelation, the divine presence. So then I went to the Bible Hub and remember the question of Colleen. It was something about green colors. And I said, okay, maybe Colleen got it from there. It has the green color. But green means life and growth and resurrection and the land. You think about the color of the land that God chose to put the grass is green. And when you see how many times he mentioned this word Hohan, it says 11 times. 11 times. I didn't put in my slide the 11 times, but you could search it in BibleHub.com. And the association with the Garden of Eden accommodates um, this picture that God is sometime orchestrating in his thread using these words. And they say what the rabbis in the Midrash said that why does Moses refer to the goal of like aromatic resin or onyx? Like why did Moses write these words? And when the rabbis were researching, they connected to the garden as something being of life, of abundance. So that was a way to describe the garden. When you continue to scroll down in the Bible Hub, you see this. You see the onyx is in Israelites' worship. And it got my attention that it says few birds action. It says engrave. It says that they sat, the stones sat, and they appear in willingly to offer. So let me explain a little bit about this slide here. So in Exodus 28, it talks about that it was in the shoulder. Two of the stones were in the shoulder, two. So, okay, so I write down two, two. And then on the breastpiece of the judgment, which is the front, on the fourth arrow, immediately we think, like Dr. Holisa have taught us, authority, government, okay, on the fourth row. But then he said it on the fourth row sat another Hohan, another stone. And remember, we're reading this, that is the onyx. And he joined together with 11. So that got us together. We just said that it was mentioned 11 times in the Bible. And this one stone joined together with the other 11. Is it a coincidence that he mentions 11 times and then one joined together 11? We don't know, but I'm just putting it together here for all of us because it really got my attention. And then when you add 12 plus 2 is 14, which it takes us to Messiah. But then he continued to say that the onyx appear in a list of materials willingly to offer to the sanctuary. In the garden, it was God's sanctuary, and it is God's sanctuary. And Isaiah 1:18 said, through your sins like a scarlet, they should be as white as snow. And then I think about that blank, that making us white as snow, making us like scarlet without sin. And says in Matthew 13:43, the righteous will shine like the sun. So maybe he was describing to us of this beautiful place within the stone, but with a deeper meaning, with a representation of a person, which is Yeshua. So to put these words together, Shem, and we already know his identity, Hohan, we already know is a stone bearing the names. So we see here the green color and the connection of the brightness and the whininess is purification. We see Yeshua was carrying his people upon his shoulder. And we see that in scripture, Isaiah 9:6, the government should be upon his shoulder. We see on John 10:3, he calls his own sheep by name. The Shem is engraved upon the Hohan, and the high priest bear those names continually before God. So in Jewish tradition, I also read that they associate Joseph, the life of Joseph, as a Hohan. And we see that Joseph carried his family. And how many of us are parents here? How many of us sometimes we carry our children in our thoughts, in our everyday life? It's a responsibility. And the high priest carry the tribes in the shoulders. So Joseph's life, both being carrying the family and the high priest carrying the tribe, it was like God carrying his family, the whole government upon his shoulder, the whole community, the whole humanity. And also it comes that profound image of the names of Israel that were carried in that breastplate. It wasn't on the hands. It wasn't on the names of Israel, but on his shoulders, on next to his heart. So all these point us to this authority, this responsibility, this government here on earth as it is in heaven. So that took me really to say symbolically, these stones in the garden are so symbolic. And then this is found also in the Bible Hub. Is that word again, memorial? And I say, okay, Lord, the engraved on awnings is it like a declaration that the God's people are remembered by you. We represent you. You have done a memorial here on earth from heaven. So I want to turn the corner now. And knowing this knowledge about the stones and the garden and the hay in the middle and the names of Abraham and Sarah, I'm going to turn the corner to consider something so peculiar. And it is that Jerusalem is absolutely the holy city that God has created. But they actually traditionally, the Jewish community, they recognize four holy places through Israel. And of course, Jerusalem being the first and the holiest because the temple, the first and second was one time stood there. And the Western Wall, the Kotel, reminds us of the sacred places of prayer that they have. But Hebron is the second holy city in Israel. And it contains the caves of who? Of Sarah and Abraham, of our grandparents. And how can we go to Israel and don't visit our grandparents? So we have the privilege to go there recently. And when we were in the class last Wednesday, and I think Petra brought up the Garden of Eden and being together, it clicked to me, which I have never clicked to me, that there's a tradition, and I remember our tour guide saying that there's a tradition that they believe the Garden of Eden is somehow there, and that Adam and Eve are buried there. This is what the tradition teaches. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But we know something, and we know that Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and Leah, they're buried there. Rachel is now buried here, which we eventually drove over there and saw her too. Saw her. We don't worship the person that's buried there, but we worship what they have done and what they mean in scriptures. And this third city is Safed, Tafa, which is not mentioned directly in the Bible, but is the highest point in Galilee. And if you read the Bible on Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world, and the city set on a hill cannot be hidden. This is the point that they refer to as Safed from Matthew 5:14. So it's not directly mentioned, but it's that description of that high hill that Jesus talks about in Matthew 5:14. And the fourth one is Tiberias. Tiberias is mentioned in the book of John in chapter 6, and in chapter 21 is also mentioned, and is the western shores of the Sea of Galilee. But for today, let's concentrate on the number two, on the second holiest city, which is Hebron. And Hebron means, in Hebrew, when you look at the root of that word, chavar, which is the meaning of join, connect, unite. So in a way, is like saying like God was connecting something from the heavenly on the earth. And we have learned of the Garden of Eden that the stones Hohan appears there. Then we know that he appears in the book of Exodus, in Hohan, in the bearing of the names of the priests and the shoulders and the bracelet. And we learned that Hohans were then later mentioned in the temple as they enter the materials to the temple. And we know of the Messiah, that he was the ultimate that carried all of us, all his sheep, the shepherd carried. But I want to bring your attention that in the middle of all this is this cave representing death. How the garden representing life, and this cave now represents this death. So first we are near the Garden of Eden, and then we bear the names, and then we carry on the shoulder, and then possibly the green color meaning life, and then possibly shining and purifying us, and then the message comes of this death, of this bridge right here, even before Messiah. So it's something so profound to think that it looks just like this when you go to this building. And I told you that that name in Hebrew, Hebron, means unite. But the name Machpelah, which is the cave that they named the cave of Machpelah in Hebron, this meaning, it means to double, to fold. The Rashis gives two explanations. They say that it was the double cave with an upper and lower chamber, or it was double because of the couples buried there. So they wanted to keep this imagery of couples, this Hebron holy place. Also, the King David was first anointed as a king of Judah in this Hebron area. The Jews also have prayed and maintaining this area, and it's a very controversial area on today's day. When we got there, we heard shots. For about 3,800 years, they have come here and pray and gather. So it's a massive structure that you see, and it has stands there for all these years. So the rabbis' tradition, they say that Adam and Eve were buried there, making this double pair couple. Because if you don't mention Adam and Eve, then you just leave three couples. So it has to be four. So that this is how they lead to that. So God's covenant continues even through death. Even through death. This is the thought that they think. And something interesting we encountered when we went here, this is my family. You see that arrow there that I put in the picture. That arrow, if you walk through those little stairs there and you make a right, you see this hole. And for 700 years, the Jews were not allowed to enter into this holy place. They could only pray through this little hole that is circular in blue. If you go there, they actually have blue painting on. And what you find, this is a picture I actually took. And you see prayers in there, just like when they go to the Western Wall. And they still do it to this day. But for 700 years, they couldn't go in. They could just stand here. And it's so symbolic because there's only 7 stairs. And I'm going to have a clip video to explain because I cannot explain it so well as the gentleman here, a rabbi, I think he explains it. So this is what you see when you stand right in front of it in Hebron. It's a little hole, and they will stand there. And there's a reason why, because that is a connection of the chamber that goes inside underneath where Abraham and Sarah and all of them are buried. That's the connect. That's what calculated that if you stand there, you will look right in the same line where they're buried. So I'm going to share this clip, and I hope it will be fruitful for all of you because I cannot explain it like he does.
The Planet Fitness Black Card. Access any location, bring a friend anytime, and recover in the Black Card Spa.
Better sleep is simple. Just track your activity, avoid blue light, exercise regularly, adequate exposure to natural light, to your diet, don't drink caffeine.
We are standing in front of the Machpelah compound. This is a building that is over 2 packed burial site in the world. Like this, artist rendition, that people would go in through the mountain and they would daven there, as it says, Vayalu Banegev Vayavoat Hebron, in reference to Kalev, one of the spies. And if they afterwards wanted to go and rest a little bit, they would go slow. Now, this picture here shows you graphically that there is an underground passage which is underneath the wall there, the corner of the south wall and the corner of the west wall, going from a little bit up the south wall northwards into the mountainside. Why am I talking about that? Because we have to know, today we can go inside the Machpelah compound, but for 700 years, Jews and also other non-Muslims, lahavdil, were not allowed to enter the Machpelah compound. Jews therefore davened only outside at this southern wall, which is shaded now, at this spot here, which is marked with a circle and an arrow and the numeral 4. Now, why did the Jews daven dafke there at a spot which was called the 7th spot? So if you look at this picture here, you can see over here there is still the arrow here. There is a little marker here. This is where the Jews davened. There was a staircase leading up towards there. Where these ladies are now going up towards, there was a staircase. What did that staircase look like? If you look at this picture here, you can see this is a picture taken right before the staircase was destroyed after Israel liberated Hebron in 1967. Why did Israel destroy the staircase? The defense minister at the time thought it was a disgrace that Jews were only allowed to go up 7 steps outside the building, but really also he was looking for the original entrance into the wall. I have over here another picture which shows us the original entrance to the staircase, which must have looked like something like this. This is a picture of the real staircase on the north side, which still stands. This is an old photograph which would lead to a gate to a staircase like this on the south side, which doesn't stand anymore. Now, having said so, we're going to take out the map one more time and turn this map over now and understand why that seventh step is so crucial. We look at the picture over here and we can see that when one stands at the seventh step outside the south wall, this is the south wall, the shaded wall, then one is basically standing exactly opposite an underground tunnel that leads at a slant northwards towards the caves that are the burial caves of the Machpelah. Machpelah, Loshin Kaful, double caves. Rav, Vishmuel, the Amru Tarvayu, they say one cave on top of the other, one cave next to the other. When research was done here in 1967 and then again in 1980, they found that there's a chamber and a chamber above, and below it there are more caves. But also that's one above the other. But they also found that there are caves one behind the other. So we're going to go up now to the seventh step and do part 2 over there. Follow me to the seventh step. Behind.
All right, guys, we're inside the building right now, and as I stated before, the internet here is terrible, so I pre-recorded this, but this is as live as it can get. Should be 6 grave markers. The other 2 being, the middle generation of you, the child of Abraham, Akedas Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. And Isaac and his wife Rivka, Rebecca, are buried on the other side here. Now, it's closed to us, and these are bulletproof windows over here. It's closed to us all but 10 days out of the year, and those 10 days is during the Chol HaMoed period, the in-between days of Pesach and Sukkot, as well as Chaya Sarah for that Shabbat, the Parsha that talks about the actual burial of Sarah. But we can see a picture over here. This is what they look like, and I can actually hear the Arabs and the Muslims on the other side praying right now. I can hear them on the other side of this door. And from here, there's a very famous opening and a shaft. You can see this girl being dropped down through this. Roughly, I think it was probably almost 40 years ago maybe, it was dropped down in here, and some pictures were taken, and you can actually see the cave and some of the ancient pottery and the materials, and you can see here's a diagram of it, of where the actual tomb of the patriarchs and the matriarchs were actually located. And of course, as we mentioned before too, underneath that, the double cave, it's a double cave. You have the one cave of patriarchs and the matriarchs, but underneath that, and according to Jewish tradition, is where Abraham, is where Adam and Eve, right? First man and woman. What is it? First man and woman, right? The first breath of godliness into our earthly bodies was given. Not to say that there weren't animals, literally, who looked like us, like Homo sapiens, but they didn't have that soul. They didn't have that godly soul. They didn't have that part of Hashem, of God with them inside. And so Adam and Eve were the first ones to be given that. And so this is the inside of the tomb of the patriarchs and the matriarchs.
The Planet Fitness Black Card. Access any location, bring a friend anytime, and recover in the Black Card Spa.
Better sleep is simple. Just track your activity, avoid blue light, exercise regularly, adequate exposure to natural light, to your diet, don't drink caffeine after 4 p.m. routine, optimize your bedroom environment before bed.
2,100 years old. That's how old the structure that Herod built above Maras Machpelah is. When you look at it, it gives you somewhat of a magnitude, a size, that gives you the understanding. I'm looking at the mezuzah, I'm looking at the sign, Petach Gan Eden, the gateway to paradise?
So it's crazy to think about it, but according to our deeper traditions from the Zohar, after Adam and Eve were thrown out of paradise, they said, we're not leaving our place. If we can't live in paradise and we were thrown out, let's be buried as close as possible to Gan Eden.
We're not allowed beyond this door today.
So the way it is Jews and Arabs split the building of the Marat Machpelah. The Arabs have the room of Isaac and Rebekah, and we have the rooms of Avram and Sarah, Yaakov and Leah. 10 days a year, the Jews control the entire building, and 10 days a year, the Muslims control the entire building. Our 10 days are always connected to a holiday season.
Chayei Sarah has her own parsha. We're standing next to the grave. What exactly we're standing next to? That there's a sign here for Sarah Imeinu.
This is the symbolic room of Avram and Sarah. Really, the double cave is underneath where we're standing, and that's where the four couples are buried from Adam and Eve, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah. I think it's important to remember they're buried always in couples and in pairs, because in Judaism, it's not till death does you apart. It's even after death, the souls stay united together. 1981, there was a tremendous curiosity to actually find out what's doing down below. You always know it's under this building, but to get the more details, a group from Dreshet Hebron go in the room of Yitzhak and Rivka, and we knew more or less where that opening was. And Noam Anon led the entourage of Jews down below into the double cave. At a certain point, Noam felt wind gushing out from under where he was standing. He realized there was another layer way beneath. Opened it up, and there he was able to discover the actual double cave. And there was, like I said, a large cave, behind it a small cave, and this is where the patriarchs and matriarchs are actually buried. He saw all the pottery there, actually saw bones there. Noam prayed there for like 5 minutes. Before you know it, already the Arabs started to understand what was going on, and Noam had to be quickly taken out, and he was able to extract some of the pottery dating back to the first temple era. So we're standing right here by the tomb of Yaakov Avinu.
I apologize for what the videos did, but you could see what they believe in and the traditions, and all this year they have been conserving this area. And Hebron is connected to the Hebrew word, that root that we said, to join, to connect, to unite. And this is what they come. So they, in the 10 days that they have the holidays, as they come to Yom Kippur, and they go 10 days, and they could actually cross over where Isaac, Isaac is the promised child to Abraham. They could cross over, and they only have 10 days to go there. The same thing, the Muslim, they have 10 days on this side to come pray for with Abraham, with the father. So it's something that they have arranged, and I really don't know how they do it, but it's something that speak of why so much controversy, why so much tension. And it's because it goes back to thousands of years ago, but it's still, you walking through this building, and you walk into this area, and you feel the tension. And like he said, I could hear the Muslim praying on the other side. We hear, because you could see them, the doors are open on that side. And that's why they have bulletproof glasses, in case they want to shoot this way. So it's something so to think, this is where the Garden of Eden is. This is the opening. But deeper than that, and I'm going to share this PowerPoint with all of you, so you actually take time to read it. I took this picture. It's a picture that the rabbi was pointing at, but I think this is a newer one from when they did that video. They restored it, and then here we see the actual map where they have the tombs there, but it's not what you see. They're underneath. It's buried underneath, and you could see that the place of Eden was where men lost access to life. But here in Machpelah became the place where the covenant family is waiting to be restored. Is a waiting in faith. Is not only that, but it's the first land where Abraham purchased in the promised land. It's the first piece of land that he decides to purchase for his wife Sarah, but from the Hittites, and that makes you think of, okay, so we come from the Garden of Eden that we have life, and then we were exited from there, and here come Abraham by faith and purchase this land to do a burial. And in Hebrews 11:13 said, these all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar. So maybe they actually did not put their foot, like Sarah didn't put her foot in the promised land, or Abraham, I'm sorry, Moses didn't see it. But they are buried here as a memorial, something to be reminded, something to be remembered. And you see here the chambers that he was talking. These are all pictures you could see. And we're reminded through all these pictures, I am the resurrection, I am the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, he should live. We remind all these verses every time we see all this, is rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Thinking back on those meaningful, the Chohan and the Shem, thinking of all those names together and thinking of these tombs that are here and that they go and they pray and that Aaron carried those names in the shoulder, and the reminder of our fathers, our patriarchs and matriarchs being here. So what is all these take us to? And I just want to highlight this. I know it's very small, but I tried to highlight the picture. It says Hall of Isaac and Rebekah. On the opposite end of the hall of Isaac and Rebekah are two entrances to the underground cave. These entrances have been sealed for many generations and are shrouded in mystery. An ancient Jewish tradition calls the cave the gateway of heaven, a place that connects heaven and earth, and where souls are prayers ascends to heaven. So they have this connection that this is the kingdom of God connected here in this piece of land. And it was the first land that he purchased, that he actually purchased in the physical, purchased this land. And here's, I put another screen of the actual thing, but a little enlarged. So I leave you with this, that this word that Colleen asked us, what is it? And me looking at the land is good. It took us to this circle of Hohan is the stone that it remember the names, that it was described in the Garden of Eden. And the Machpelah, this burial, this memorial that is in Hebron, is the cave of remembering the promises that he gave to Abraham. And the actual Messiah, the high priest, who carry both our names and our hope beyond death. So this is a reminder that the first legal possession of Abraham in the promised land was not just a palace. It wasn't a farm. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't a city, but it was a grave. And why? It's because the promise of God are stronger than the grave. So in the middle between the Garden of Eden, Messiah coming, the word coming flesh to us, we see this burial. And this is a reminder, like Hebrew 4:14 says, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Yeshua, the Son of God. And as we pass in through Hebron, we are reminded of the heavenly realm, that probably the Garden of Eden is up above us, just hovering upon the whole earth. And that's all I have.